Konnichiwa.
Welcome to the Jandals in Japan podcast.
Kia ora, Catherine.
Konnichiwa, Jane.
We are into winter now, aren't we? Yay.
Yay,
So it's the ski bunny and me.
Yeah, ski bunny and you, and kind of hiding by the fire in me.
Catherine's ready to do some hiding by the fire. I'm super excited for this episode today. We're talking about winter sports, in particular snowboarding, skiing, and how it's just such a booming industry in Japan now.
Yeah. So many people from overseas have come into Japan as well, into the ski resorts and areas like that, where they're from different countries, right? From Australia is quite common. Obviously now we're going to talk to somebody from New Zealand and other countries coming in and revitalizing, I think, and rejuvenating the ski areas that were maybe getting a bit tired. And we've had this influx, which has really boosted things.
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of New Zealanders who've done the working holiday in Japan on a ski resort just for fun, but they probably never realized that actually they could live here permanently and actually even own their own business, and that would be welcomed even. So today we're going to be hearing from Teri more about that, and I just think it's fantastic because actually the number of Japanese people who ski is decreasing rapidly. So tourists coming in from overseas to enjoy Japanese ski resorts is a huge source of revenue for them these days. And also the generation of people that own the ski resorts are also dying out. And so there are all of these businesses that were built in the boom sort of bubble era that need new owners, is looking for new owners. So
wow,
so
amazing
much opportunity.
Such an opportunity. So yes, you mentioned Teri, and today's guest is Teri Tall, the Kiwi owner of Hakuba Matata Ski Lodge, right up there in Hakuba. She and her husband came to Japan and did skiing here, and then came upon an idea to just be a business owner, exactly as you said, of one of the lodges that were for sale. So she went along, and with this Kiwi attitude of no worries and just winging it, they managed to buy this place, and now it's running as a cute little lodge up in Hakuba. The story was so amazing that she told us, right, Jane?
Yeah, so fun. And just how, yes, your Kiwi attitude is okay here, and adding in a dash of, as you know, respecting the culture and asking questions and being curious as you go along, you too could be successful like Teri and her family have been with running their own lodge.
Also, too, I loved how she has also given a new idea to a business, and you have to listen to the show to hear about what she's doing, encouraging women to get out into the wilderness as well. So do enjoy. And there's also another little bonus too, Jane, right?
Yes, if you listen, you'll hear what the bonus is. So make sure you listen towards the end. Yeah. All right, let's hear it from Teri. Kia ora, Teri. Welcome to the Jandals in Japan podcast. Great to have you on the show today.
Kia ora. Nice to meet you both.
So we like to start with our warm-up question. And today our question for you is, what is your favorite winter activity in Japan?
This is an easy one.
Yeah, I know you can do this one. It's okay.
Yeah. Without a doubt, I would say snowboarding, but it's probably actually split boarding, which is more the mountaineering version of snowboarding. So getting out into the backcountry off the side of the resorts. Yeah.
Split boarding, did you say?
Yeah, so you walk up. You can take a lift to get a lot of the way up. You walk up and then you snowboard down.
Okay, so you've got your snowboard on your back to get into
well, the split board actually splits into two skis, and then you put skins on the bottom, which help you walk up. So you don't actually have to carry them. They help you get up. Yeah.
I have been out of the winter sports for too long. I did not know about this. I used to be an avid skier back in the day.
Well, I mean, it's still a small amount of people that do go to this level it's a different sport, really. You spend a lot more time walking than snowboarding.
Right. Good exercise. We'll have to ask you a little bit more about the backcountry things later. But Catherine, your winter
Favorite winter activity?
Maybe it's an indoor one. not,
I was
not on the
thinking
mountains.
snuggling down, or else actually disappearing from Japan and heading to New Zealand. Can I say that? But
Heading for the summer.
Ooh, I don't know. I think sorry, I really should be talking about going skiing, splitboarding, snowboarding. But it's not in my genes so much. However, I have skied in New Zealand. But I'd say I really do love a cozy, warm cafe, especially if it's got a fire going. I know when I was back in New Zealand in June and winter, I went into a cafe and they actually had a real fire going. And I don't know what that does to the smog conditions or anything, but felt nice. So I do like snuggling up with a flat white or a latte, maybe a marshmallow in there somewhere. But yeah, that's not really an activity, is it? But there we go. Jane, please take over and save me.
I thought you were going to say I like sitting in my kotatsu, and then I was like, you probably don't even have a kotatsu, do you?
Sorry, no, I don't.
No. A kotatsu is, or like, do you guys have one? Do you have one, Teri?
No, we don't have one.
You should get one. They're amazing. The heated coffee table. You sit on with your legs under there and you snuggle in there, and then you don't want to get out. And yeah, that would be a wonderful indoor activity to do here in winter in Japan.
Absolutely.
My other one I was going to say is barbecue.
Oh, in winter?
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah, go on.
Because in summer, it's impossible to have a barbecue in Japan, right? It's too hot. The bugs are like biting you and stuff. But it's actually quite sunny and not on the Sea of Japan side of Japan, but where a lot of us do actually live, which is on the Pacific side of Japan. It's very sunny and, quite pleasant to be outside in winter if you've got the right clothing on, right? So having a bit of a barbecue, getting a fire going, sitting around it outside in the winter is actually really, really, like it's sort of like you said, that fire thing, it soothes the soul or something, sitting around the fire.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love having a bit of a barbecue in the winter, but you do have to rug up for
There
it.
you go. Yeah.
Good fun.
Fantastic. Well, we're talking about winter and snow and lots of things here because Teri Tall, I love that name. It feels like it's a stage name. I love the name. Right, and here is Teri Tall. And yes, so here is Teri Tall today on the Jandals in Japan podcast. You are a Kiwi ski lodge owner. Yeah?
Yep.
You own the Hakuba Matata Lodge up in Hakuba. And we know that you're just having a ball there. You're giving it a very big Kiwi attitude to the way that you're running it. And the way you set it up. And we can't wait to hear from you today. We know we're getting you today on the show just before that ski season, snow season starts. So we're happy to hear from you today about all the things that you've got going on. Can't wait. But first up, tell us a bit about your background, where you grew up, and I guess what your first interaction was with Japan as well.
Well, I'm from New Plymouth in Taranaki. And my dad was always big into his winter sports. My grandma as well was one of Coronet Peak's original, ski club members and was a life member. And then dad was into ski racing. And then we came along. And then it's funny because in my childhood, I remember being dragged along to go skiing for weekends and holidays and things like that, enjoying it a little bit, but not really that into it.
Yeah.
And then actually it wasn't until I was at university when my parents were no longer really even encouraging it or certainly not paying for it, was when I was like, I want to be a snowboarder now. So,
Right.
So that's where the interest in the ski side of things came. As far as the Japan side of things came, I had this teacher when I was at intermediate school. I think I was 11 or 12 years old, and he had just returned back to New Zealand after teaching English in Japan for many years. And he just put heaps of his passion and interest in Japan into what we were doing every day. So we read Japanese books after lunch and we sang Japanese songs in assembly, and he taught us like how to count and all this stuff. It was totally not in the normal curriculum, but his passion kind of started that off. But then it wasn't until 2014, which was my first trip to Japan. My husband and I, well, we weren't married then, but we did a 1-month trip to Japan, and we both shared a love of snowboarding. So we spent the whole month snowboarding, and then we came back and did another one in 2016. And then that was about it until we moved here.
Goodness me. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, that's so fun, right? The teacher came back, but you weren't learning Japanese. It wasn't a Japanese class. He just pulled that into the classes that you were doing and teaching the words and numbers and things like that. How exciting.
Yeah,
what a great
it was
way.
Really cool. And I never realized at the time how much I would find that useful.
There you go. Yes, accounting especially, right? So, so what then after that 2014-16, you did actually come and decide to be in Hakuba. What drew you to Hakuba Nagano? I can tell it's about skiing and snow. I know that, but it's a bit different to visiting.
Not Sapporo, not Sapporo,
not
sorry,
Sapporo.
up Hokkaido, Niseko area or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, to come here and visit and snowboard with your then boyfriend, now husband, is different to actually coming and settling here and starting a business. So tell us that story.
Yeah. Okay. So when we were coming on our holidays, they were just holidays. We weren't even thinking about anything like that. We were in our mid-20s by this point, and we were living normal 9-to-5 lifestyle in New Zealand, but we'd always planned to go traveling more. So we actually, after our 2016 trip, we had a little bit more work to do, but then we packed up and we went to Europe for a couple of years. We did a couple of ski seasons there, so went to Austria and France, and in that time worked for ski chalet companies or a range of different ski bum jobs, I guess is what you might call it, and just kind of got a feel for living in the mountains, and just knew that we really wanted to make our lifestyle in the mountains somehow, but we didn't really know. And then in 2018, we went back to New Zealand and we were like, okay, so how do we do this? We couldn't even decide on where to live or what I was really hesitant to get back into a normal job, and we didn't know what we were doing. And then I remembered that when we were here on our very first trip in Japan, we were in Miyako, Kogen, at a different ski resort. And there was this hotel there for sale, and it was on the piste. So it was ski in, ski out, huge hotel. And at the time, it was for sale for 200,000 New Zealand dollars. And we were just like, how? What's going on? So that just planted the seed. We weren't at the right time in our life. We didn't have the money. We didn't have anything like that going on. But it just planted the seed. And then when we were back in this predicament in 2018, I was just like, remember Japan? And so we were really fortunate as well that in the time we'd bought a house in New Zealand before we went traveling, and in the time we'd been away, it had pretty much doubled in value while we'd had tenants in there. So we had this weird scenario where we actually did have a little bit of money. So we were like, okay, let's just go and see. So we did a 1-week trip to Hakuba in the rainy season, which we didn't really know about at the time. Yeah, it was dark and grey and nothing going on.
And
muggy and
yeah. And we looked around at a couple of lodges and found that there was stuff around that we could afford. And then next thing you know, we'd put an offer in and it got accepted. And within a few months, we were moving here.
Oh my goodness.
Classic. It's like MacGyver, I don't know if you've I'm maybe too old for you. Like a rubber band and a piece of glue and a stick and you make something happen. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's so cool.
That's kind of how it's happened. I don't know why we came to Hakuba. I think it's just because it was the easiest. It's got a great community of foreigners and Japanese people who are used to working or dealing with foreigners, and it was easy for us.
Yeah, it sounds like you overcame quite a few things. So you purchased a property and set yourself up as a business. It's sort of glossed over that, but somehow you've managed that, and also with minimal Japanese behind you as well, right? That's very, very
I could
impressive.
Count.
Yes.
Thanks to your teacher.
to an extent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. How was that process itself, though? Did you just ride through it? Did someone help you with it? I know real estate agents do this, but I guess with that area having a lot of foreign investment and people who've bought and sold, what we call batches, right? Holiday homes, ski lodges itself. You probably had someone who could help you in English as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people there still are a lot of people who help us all the time. But one example is when we came to look at different lodges on that rainy season trip, someone said, go stay with this Kiwi guy. He's got a lodge there and he's there year round. And so I did. I just booked in at his place, and then he ended up having a lot of insight for us, especially like based on location, and just things like that. We would have known if we had spent more than 2 days here, but we didn't really understand the lay of the land or anything. We're just winging it. And then he recommended that we talk to a company that's called Hakuba Assist, and it was assisting people who are buying houses or anything. They help especially with new property people trying to just make their way over here. And then they recommended an immigration lawyer that speaks English, who also helped us with what we needed to do regarding legally setting up business here, whether it was sole proprietor or a company, and going through all that side of things as well. So lots of help.
It sounds like, too, just your Kiwi attitude, I can see from your face and your smile and all that's going on there, is that it's just helped you to kind of wing it in a way. I don't know. Obviously, you've got the money, you've got people helping you, but you've got to have an attitude yourself on how to really invest in Japan, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you can do it in a lot of different ways. We know a lot of people in this town and in the ski industry in general who have a very different approach, and they get on fine as well. Probably less surprises for them.
Tell us about the name of the lodge and, what's how many rooms, what's going on there?
Yeah, so our lodge, it's called Hakuba Matata.
And that means? I know Hakuba means Hakuba, area.
It's from The Lion King. So it's a play on words from Hakuna Matata. And because we didn't know you pronounce Hakuba a bit different to Hakuna back then.
Right. You were saying Hakuba instead of Hakuba.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay. Fine.
There you go.
But funnily enough, a lot of people stay here. They stay here and say, oh, we just loved that name. We got it straight away and thought these guys are fun. So we were just like, okay.
There you go.
But most of our guests are
awesome.
international, so they also don't know the right way or the
Right. They're also saying Hakuba and
Hakuba.
And what is it sort of trading into your philosophy for the lodge as well? You try and make it a fun place for people to come to enjoy, and that you also enjoy the hospitality as well.
We've done a lot of travel in this industry as well, and people are on holiday. They want to have a good time. They don't want to have to worry about things. So we just try and bring that through to the whole vibe of the place.
How do you do that? How does it look?
We're quite casual, as you might have picked up on, but we like to make people feel at home. So it's not a hotel situation where, you feel a little bit awkward in a space that's not homely and comfortable. For example, we have an honesty bar in the entranceway in the Genkan. Yeah, we just try to make it feel that this is your place too.
You trust them to be a good guest, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really interesting because many people on this show have, like myself, like Jane, we've been here for a long time. We've got language under our belt. We're mastering, still getting there with so many customs and things. And it just is so interesting that you've jumped into things in this Kiwi way. How's it really helped you, do you think? Looking back, I guess, a rear view mirror and perhaps what you're doing now, how are you seeing it as helping you in this country of Japan where there's lots of customs and ways of doing things and not doing things, especially in business?
I find that there's a lot of rules and customs and things like that, but a lot of Japanese people, maybe it's just that we're lucky out here outside of the city, that the Japanese people expect that we don't actually know everything. As long as we're being respectful and we ask the questions, they know that what they're doing is not how the rest of the world is. And they find that interesting too. So we've found that by just jumping in and doing things and then just asking questions as we go and checking that, like, is this going to be something that causes a problem or whatever it is? Like, I know that the neighbors are like rolling their eyes at us when we walk outside in our bare feet and do things like that, bath our children out on the front deck.
Quietly horrified, yes.
Yeah. But also, like, I
could be jealous though too. Could be a little bit of green eye going on there as well. Yeah,
I think so. We just find that by asking as we go, it actually brings them into the journey as well, and they feel like they're helping or learning things new as well. Yeah, and it's quite a fun way to do business over here.
Very nice. It sounds like you've landed definitely in the right place for you, that the community comes along with you on the journey and helps you. And it doesn't sound like there's a huge amount of opposition or sort of, I'm sure there's the sort of cattiness and infighting that goes on in every small community around Japan as well. But you found yourselves in a great place to get started in this learning journey of how to be in business in Japan. Anything that shocked you? That you're like, oh my God, did not expect that?
One thing that comes to mind just for shock value, I just remember sitting with our person that was helping us get our lodging license and food hygiene safety license back in those early days. And we were going through the different things we needed to do. Like, we had to provide a floor plan and had to make sure we had a clean kitchen and 3 sinks plus a hand washing sink and all these like check boxes we needed to tick. And then she just looks at me and goes, yes, and we need your stool. And I said, I don't have any stools. What are you talking about?
Not that stool. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other kind of stool. Oh my God.
Like, no,
right.
Poo. You need poo. And I was like, what? What do you mean by poo for? And then, so there's like an annual, it might even be 6-monthly requirement for a food safety license to provide stool samples. And that was just like one of those, it was just really funny. We were just in tears laughing because I just wasn't expecting it. And she didn't write it down for me to be mentally prepared first. I was just like, what?
And what's the connection for that? Why is it needed for anyone listening or someone who's asking the question who may not know? Asking for a friend.
There's some bugs that you can carry. And so they can be detected in a stool sample, and they do not want people who have these bugs
to be preparing food.
That's where it comes from. But it seems quite sort of over the top, doesn't it? Like there's coming from New Zealand where we don't do that really. But so maybe things are a bit different. But giving a stool sample is super easy in Japan. They make it so easy for you to do it. So don't be scared.
You line up with a bunch of like a whole horde of other people with your little bag of
And I actually had to hand one over recently, and they were like, "Oh, you got your sample?" And I was like, "Yeah," dug it out of my bag and gave it to them, and it was received like this with 2 hands out, and just like I was handing over my credit card, and I'm trying not to laugh, just going, "Oh my God!" But thank you for being so respectful about my stool sample that I'm handing over. Oh dear, so that's something that will happen when you're in Japan. Is you will probably have to do that at some point. Anybody will have to do that. So
hang on a minute. All these establishments that are around town are doing this, basically?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's something I have learnt today that I did not know before we got on today.
There you go.
Any other things like do's and don'ts? I mean, you've told us about the bathing your children on the deck, or that's great. Why not balcony? How about anything else that's come up that you've thought, didn't do that, should have done that? Any other interesting stories to tell us?
Like you just asked before, Catherine, one of my rules is don't ask why. Because there's so many rules. There's so many, this is how it is. And then when we're here with, telling stories or whatever with our guests or with friends that are visiting but why? And it's like, or new people who are starting lodges, but why is it like this? And we've just stopped asking because it just is the way it is. And you just need to bow your head and take a breath, and it's going to take time, and you just have to do it this way.
Often Japanese don't know the answer too.
Yeah,
no,
it's
they
just
don't know
it's
either.
done.
It's just how it's done. Yep.
Yeah. Right, Jane? I mean, sometimes you can give a curious suggestion of why it might be, but there might be a tilt of the head and it's a Yeah, leave that one.
Absolutely. They have no idea why they're doing this. It just is. And we also have to just get on the bus and also do that. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say would be one of the biggest challenges you've come across, though, in running the business? I mean, there must be all sorts of challenges. I'm thinking if I sat there today, what I would be trying to think about to run the business, like picking people up, but also getting food and provisions in, getting snowed in, all kinds of things that I can think about would make me feel like, it's not the business for me, but how exciting for you. What sort of challenges do you see? What was, to the other side of that is it's not really a challenge because we're approaching it in this sort of relaxed, no worries, Kiwi kind of way.
My husband is very handy. He's an electrician by trade. And I think that without having that, it would be really tough here because it's an older building that we're in and it's a booming town as well. And getting hold of tradespeople, especially with the language barriers and all that sort of thing, that would be really, really tough. But because he is able to do most of the things that we do, it really takes that really big challenge out of it.
Yeah. I suppose he's helping other people too. They call on him.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't have said it on the podcast because he tries to keep his electricianness a secret a little bit.
We may need to edit that out.
No, it'll be all right.
That's why it's like 5,000 yen an hour anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. Yeah, anything else?
Yeah, so that's good. We just take things in our stride. So we don't find things too challenging most of the time, actually. We just ride the roller coaster and hope it goes all right.
Yeah, while you're on it, you might as well enjoy it, right? So
Yeah. And I think, with that attitude that we do take to things, we make sure that when our guests stay, they basically become our friends as well, or we get on quite a friendly,
kind of friendly level with them, right?
Level with them, and then it's like what I was saying with the getting the Japanese people on board. We just end up getting people on board, getting them into what we're doing as well.
Well, speaking of that, you've been really proactive and you've established an outdoor women's network in Japan. Yeah, so you're bringing you want to bring more women into the outdoors.
That's right.
You said it's an online community, I think, before we got on the podcast today, but tell us more about that and why you decided to set that up yourself. You're busy running a lodge. How can you do this?
The lodge bit's easy. The Women's Network, I started that off during COVID, and it was becoming really apparent to me just from being in other communities online that a lot of people were feeling, everywhere in the world, everyone was feeling isolated. But I think in Japan, there is a particularly large portion of people who do become isolated, and particularly women, especially ones who are here on spouse visas or whatever it is. There's just a lot of people here who don't necessarily find their people. And I've always been a proud advocate for getting more women just together and doing things that make them happy. And so for me, it's easiest to bring people to the outdoors because it's something that brings me joy, and it's easy for me to share that with other people. So I started this just a Facebook group. I just thought, I'll just put it out there and see who wants to join. And before I knew it, it was growing and growing and growing. And then I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to start hosting events. So the first event, I just tried to bring people together and keep the prices pretty accessible as well, because a lot of people who are isolated are there because they don't necessarily have a lot of money or disposable income or time, especially in this country. So I just hosted this weekend event where I think it was about 15 or 16 women came. None of them knew each other before. Maybe one or two came as sets of friends or something, but they all came individually and stayed at the lodge with me. We did some hiking. We had a dinner at the lodge, and it was just social and fun and nothing high pressure. It was the hike we ended up doing was just 1 hour each way or something. Nothing too crazy, but it just had this focus on the outdoors and spending time together, and it was really cool. And then since then, I've held more events, and many of them have been in the winter as well. So we do learn to ski and snowboard together. And And then just ones where people come and ski together. And I've started getting the same people returning all the time as well, and advocating when I put the event up. They're just like, this is great, you should go. And it's just really cool because I don't actually do that much. I just say, you guys should come, let's do it. And it's kind of turning into something. So I've got a bit of a dream with it, that I can start collaborating with other female business owners in Japan, and then we can all start offering more things and just grow it so that more people can get what they get from it.
That sounds amazing. And why did I not know about this? But anyway,
please join.
I know about it now.
Yeah,
that's great. And it's because Japan has so much beautiful nature that is just sitting there unused, or it's only being used by a certain age group of people, and they tend to be the retired people who have time to go out into the mountains. But the sort of younger, sort of 30s, 40s, 50s, we are busy and we are tired and lonely. Yeah, this is what we need, right? And we need someone like you to come along and set it up for us. So all we have to do is say, yes, I'm coming.
Show up. Yeah.
And put it in your calendar.
Make sure you leave work by 7 o'clock on a Friday.
Such a gift. That's amazing.
Yeah. How do you join the community? Did you just find you on Facebook and sign up? Yeah.
Yes. Yep. That's right. I am trying to start a website, but I've got 2 little kids at the moment, so time poor, but I'll get there very shortly. But yeah, at the moment, just join on the Facebook group, Outdoor Women's Network Japan.
Lovely. And do you have Japanese women in the group too? Because I know, in Japan, there's yamagaru, or the women who are, typically young girls who are maybe not even so young these days, but originally it started out, I think, in their 20s. Often university students who sort of got into the mountains in groups of 4 or 5, dressed pretty cool, and there's lots of shops now that dress
to have the right outfit
on the right gear, right? It's not always about fashion, but I think it's also about getting people, out of Tokyo, for example, but in the right gear, of course, for these people. But is that part of what you're doing, or is that what you're seeing as well? A lot of the younger set getting out there?
Yeah,
Japanese
we do.
Well?
We've got a lot of younger and Japanese people. The group is all in English. So when people come on trips, they know they can expect to be speaking and communicating in English. So the most recent event that we had was actually run by a friend of mine who I met through the network, who is now hosting her own outdoor women's events as well. But I would say probably half of them were Japanese nationality.
There you go. Who would you like to collaborate with, though? If you think about
what's your wish list?
Which groups? Who's your wish list?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of business owners in Japan who are female who have direct links to the outdoors. So they might be other lodge owners. They might be people who run a trail running business, or something to do with fitness, or who knows? I don't know. I haven't found them yet.
Well, if you're listening, reach out to Teri and collaborate. She's open to collaboration.
Yes, please do. As an example for in other types of people, Chris, who ran the most recent weekend retreat, I think is what it was called out here, she brought along a yoga teacher and an artist. And everyone in the group did hiking and yoga, but they also had an art session and a lot of meditation as well. And these women, they have these skills and they want to share them, and they want to be able to, get a bit for what they do as well. So it's just this opportunity where everyone can be lifted up by these skills and these, amazing talents that people have for whatever it is. And it can all be linked into the outdoors if it needs to be.
What's fabulous. I think the first step is getting on the Facebook group. Yes. And receiving all the information, and being also proactive. Put your hand up and coordinate with you or Chris or one of the other members perhaps, and get something going. What a great idea. I love that you've just been driven by your own passion to create something, and it's just building on itself. And that's a fabulous thing to do in Japan, and build up your community. So what are the future things you've got in place there, or planning for your lodge and other things? Anything you want to tell us about that's coming up?
Well, winter is coming.
Yes. So if we want to come and stay this winter, do you have any vacancies at this
Not
point?
not many actually.
Oh,
This coming winter, I don't know if you've seen the headlines around this
no.
area,
What are the
but
headlines?
they're basically saying not enough beds, which I think is a bit dramatic because there's definitely still accommodation in Hakuba for the winter, but we are probably 80% booked for the coming season.
Goodness me.
Yeah, and it does typically do that. We book out quite early around here.
But
So
so
if you want to
depending,
come, be prepared. Just start planning a bit earlier.
and so when the sort of snow starts to come or not come, does that change?
So it can come anywhere from sort of mid-November, and then it's pretty much always got something open by mid-December. And when I say something, I'm talking about there's snow on the top of the mountains, and you take the gondola to the top, and you take lifts just right at the top. Some years it is absolutely top to bottom, crazy amounts of powder by that point, but other years it'll be that other way. So we typically don't actually take bookings until mid-December.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of the benefits of this industry is that, and maybe the Japan factor as well, is that if you feel like just closing your business down for a few months, you just do it. And everyone does it.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I want to wrap up with the usual questions we ask people, and that's like the one gem. And that's your one super, super big hint or tip that you would give to anybody, perhaps Kiwis coming into Japan to have successful business here. We've heard a lot about you so far, but what would be the one thing that comes up for you that you think you'd like to share?
My biggest tip would be just to do it. You can do all the research, or you could listen to some stories of the rules and the all the things you have to do and the how to hold your business card correctly, and it might freak you out a little bit. But actually, if you just keep all of that in mind and treat respectfully, but just give it a go, because there's rules, but then there's always the gray area, and there's always if you keep asking, you eventually find a way to make it happen, so long as it's not too crazy. You can usually get things across the line if you need to. If you're not in a rush and you can just take your time and get to know people, then just do it.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that almost nothing is closed to you in Japan, really. Has you found anything was like, no, foreigners can't do that, apart from voting when you are not a citizen, right? Yes. But you haven't come across anything in starting your business where it's like, oh no, you can't do that.
Yeah,
Even just purchasing
so.
your property, right? A lot of foreigners can't purchase property in New Zealand.
No, it's easier to buy a property here than it is to buy a car.
Right, yes, a lot of hoops to jump through
for a car. You have to have residency to
yeah.
buy a car.
Right,
or
a place to park
contract.
it and all of these things.
Yeah, the parking place. Wow. Good tip. I love that, to just do it and don't be freaked out by too much. Just actually just give it a go and be respectful as you tread your way through. Wonderful. How about anything coming up that you see in your crystal ball? You're looking in that, something you can see, trends or whatever is happening, especially in your area of the world up there in Hakuba. Anything you see coming along the line that you'd like to share, or might give some other people some hints of collaborating with you or working alongside you?
Well, as far as the ski and snow industry in Japan goes, it is going gangbusters at the moment. It is, as I said, there's a lot of construction and a lot of things going on in Hakuba, but also there's a lot of investment going into the Miyoko area. You start hearing about more and more happening in Nozawa. So if anyone's familiar with the ski industry here, those are a lot of sort of the bigger areas on Honshu, on the mainland. Sapporo is probably already quite, what's the word? Like it's changed a lot away from being at its Japanese roots, I would say. There's a lot of Asian investment going into there, like from China, Hong Kong, Singapore. And things are changing in Honshu now as well, which is good and bad. You can have amazing infrastructure coming up and really nice things, but it does bring the price up as well. So there's just a lot happening here. So whether that
Roll up.
sparks any, exactly,
Roll up,
whether
yeah.
that sparks any entrepreneurs to jump on it before it gets
Right.
crazy, or changes your mind, you want to go and choose to ski somewhere a little bit more secluded. And Japan has hundreds of ski resorts. So
Wow.
And a
You-
lot
you
of them
can
are
have whatever.
struggling, right? A lot of them are actually struggling, unlike potentially Hakuba and Niseko, which have
Yeah.
a lot of visitors. I think at Fukushima, we have a lot of ski areas, but I don't see the same development happening here yet.
it's starting to have that ripple effect through Japan, slowly but surely. So
And what
Interesting.
if for someone who's heard you today on the podcast and they rock up to your lodge or they email you to book in, is there anything you might do for them?
They say they're a
Well,
Jandals listener.
A Jandals
Yeah,
listener and heard you on the show.
absolutely. Yes, we do have a little discount for anyone who comes directly saying that they listen on Jandals. So
All right, there you
Please
go,
do.
people. Roll up,
Yeah.
roll up.
Yes,
Excellent.
and I can't say how important it is to book direct.
yes, please.
Please book
Yeah.
direct.
Yeah.
Make the effort
Yeah.
and book direct.
Do
Thank
it,
you.
do it. Congratulations on now being a Jandal in Japan. We
Thank you.
loved that you were proactive and reached out to us to tell us that you existed, that you've been a secret fan for a while of the show. We love hearing people come to us like you and tell us
Yeah,
that.
it feels
Thank you
surreal
so
to
much.
be here, actually.
Oh, thank you so much. You can have this playing in the reception area above the box, the honesty box, and people will know that you've been famous on TV. Well, not quite TV, but YouTube at least. Thanks
Yeah,
so
sounds
much,
good.
and we really appreciate you coming on the show again. Congratulations on being a Jandal in Japan.
Cool. Thank you both.
Wow, that was such a good story from Teri. I'm inspired. What other businesses could we buy and do in Japan?
Exactly. And when she said that, like 200,000 New Zealand dollars equivalent, I was just, wow, is that how cheap they could have been in those days?
Yeah,
right?
in
Back
those days,
then.
yeah.
Of course, it's changed a bit, but it's attainable, even though you may not think about it. There's lots of things you can do in Japan, and that's one huge example that Teri's given us of what you possibly can do if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, so beware of these sort of older buildings, though, I think. As she mentioned that, there's a lot of issues that come up with them. And if you have that DIY skills, then maybe you can turn your hand to solving all of these problems as they come along. But yeah, I can imagine there are some things that pop up. But
Wow,
what a
yeah.
lifestyle, Hayes. Work your butt
Yeah.
off for 6 months or so and then have a bit of a holiday for 6 months.
Well, why not? And I thought it was so fun that she just sort of mentioned about not having Japanese and not knowing the culture has actually been a super strength for them in setting up the business. And you often hear about people needing Japanese here, and it's definitely true, but there's the other side of things. And I love that she shared that story, that you can actually do it in different ways by not having language, and people will come and support you and help you.
Yes, and actually become very sort of involved and want to be part of your success, right?
Right,
And
especially not expecting that you understand the language or the culture. So they therefore come in double fold and help you even more. And just, the way that she's managing things on that sort of no worries, looking after people, keep them entertained and happy. They're on holiday. Think about them before you're thinking about yourself. So many things there that she's aligned with the culture, probably even without knowing that she's tapping into it. It's really amazing. And there are some other really great substantial things too about that food safety license blew me away. I didn't realize that was happening. I thought that was funny.
It is funny, and it just goes to show, well, at least she has someone guiding her on that. And you will probably have to do one of those samples if you're living in Japan, though, right?
Yes,
Get
definitely.
very good at it after a while.
And that's awesome, right? And also just, don't forget that discount if you're going to be doing some skiing this season and you need a place to stay. They may be fully booked, who knows, but there might be a cancellation too. Luck might be on your side, but give them a bell. Tell them you've listened to us directly. And if you do, let us know. We'd love to know what it was like for your stay there and how you enjoyed the area, and share some information with us.
Yes, I don't get to Hakuba very much being here in Fukushima, and when I do ski, I tend to ski in Totori, which is where my husband's family is. But maybe we'll have to make a special trip there at some point, I think.
It
No,
would be
that would-
fun,
that-
right?
that
Hopefully
would
they've
be
got the
so cool.
kotatsu installed by then.
That's right, yeah. Alrighty, that's all for this episode. We'll see you again soon with a super interesting guest. I'm sure you're going to knock your socks off with this one.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you check out our guests' links in the show notes.
This podcast is brought to you today by Catherine O'Connell Law and Pod Launch with Jane. If you have a great story you think should be on the show, come and find us on LinkedIn or Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.
Mata ne!